We have Moshe Lebowitz joining us from Jerusalem with his new approach, innovative approach toward connection, mind and body. And he is the founder of the company called Healables. Healables provides a revolutionary wearable technology in the form of smart textile that optimizes the hardware and software of the human being. Healables device delivers a complete holistic solution for chronic illness and chronic pain and personalized yet scalable package. Well, welcome, Moshe. Give me a chance to add you to the... Hi there! So finally, we got you talk. It took a while. Apologies for any inconvenience in terms of like time or anything, but we're happy to see you.
Okay, I'm sorry for the technical delays, but I'm glad I'm able to be here, and I have my textile over here ready to go. So we're excited.
Yeah, go. Yes, so we can add your presentation on stage.
Wonderful.
And here you go. I'm leaving you for now. Yes.
So okay, how do I get the slides forward? Where's their?
It's on the screen. If you look at the screen, there is a slide. Do you see it? Okay, got it.
Wonderful. Okay, fantastic. So here we are. So today we're going to talk about sometimes it's the brain, not the mind, novel thoughts on PTSD. So this time it's personal. I'm going to tell my own brain story. And by the way, if anybody knows RFK, please send in this presentation because I think that really what we're doing has a lot of implications for where America can go and how we can help.
You know, the thing is, almost every presentation here is... It's exactly towards this direction. Thank you so much for bringing this up, though.
Absolutely. So what we're going to talk about today, our journey is going to be, this time it's personal, my brain story. The brain or the mind, what is PTSD? Then thirdly, we're going to go into PTSD inflammation are connected. Really, that's kind of strange. Then we're going to talk about our own pilot with MSK, musculoskeletal, and PTSD in soldiers, and how catastrophic failure led to remarkable success. And then finally, what the future direction is. Pills, where we're going, we don't need pills. So everyone has a unique God-given superpower. When we learn to connect with our divine souls, we can make the impossible happen. I think that's the starting point. Really, the end point is that we're all human beings, which means we are created in the image of God, and we are able to live from our souls. And that's what we want to do, is to be living from that place rather than living from much lower places. So how do we learn to see the divinity within ourselves? So the Creator sends us clues, but we tend to miss them. So he sends us more clues, and sometimes they're not always fun. So my own brain story is, many years ago, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor on the brainstem. Before then, I really didn't know anything about the brain. And that led to PTSD and lots of stress and more stress and lots of negative reactions, scared, angry, why me? What do we do about this? So, the people say, what's the fastest land animal? And people like to answer the cheetah. So it's true, it's the cheetah, but it's the animal that's the cheetah is chasing. So I'm really humbled right now to speak to so many distinguished professors and neuroscientists, psychologists, physicists. My professional entry into the brain was as a patient, And that's really what I want to share with you today. So I ended up getting treated in UPMC with gamma radiation, and that led to some PTSD. When I came there, I had my rabbinical black hat and my long black coat, and I came in for the radiation. So I took off my coat and I took off my shirt, and I needed to be treated without a shirt without a collar. So I had a nice Steelers shirt, and when all the doctors saw my Steelers shirt, they were all really, really excited. So my recommendation, if anybody needs to have gamma radiation in UPMC, wear a Steelers shirt. So what I learned from that after that was I had a lot of brain fog and I had a lot of brain inflammation and PTSD. And it's important to treat the mind and the body and the soul together. And I did cranial psychotherapy, and I actually did Chinese medicine and a lot of Hasidus and Kabbalah and somatic experiencing. These are all things that I learned because of the brain tumor, and really it changed my life. And it was an incredible blessing that I had to go through this experience, because I was able to then go and found Healables, wearables that heal, and develop my own wearable for recovery of performance for MSK and for PTSD. So it ended up being an incredible blessing, and that's something that I really want to share today, and that's why I'm so excited about this talk. So just a quick tip for the untrained friend, because there's a lot we're going to cover today, but we all know people that are suffering. So what do we do when we don't have any training? So really the most important thing is just be there, be present, and listen without judging. This is from Dr. Ari Lowell, who was a combat veteran and former program manager of the residential rehabilitation program for PTSD in Memphis, VA. So just be there non-judgmentally, without moralizing or telling them what to do, feel, or think, and show them that they're not ignored. Just listen. And Dr. Lowe is also my brother, so I'm a little bit biased to his advice. So the brain or the mind, what is PTSD? How do we define PTSD? Is it psychological? Is it physiological? Now, I'm going to translate that question, the brain or the mind, for the engineers. When we say psychological, we're talking about software. When we say physiological, we're talking about the brain or hardware. So really the question is, and when we say PTSD, it's an illness, disease, condition, disorder. For engineers, that means there's a bug. Okay, so when there's a bug, we want to understand, is it a software problem or is it a hardware problem? Is PTSD in the mind or in the brain? So we'll start with a broad definition, a behavioral definition. So it'll be a psychological definition. It's not as specific as the DSM-5, but post-traumatic stress disorder is a common mental health condition that can develop after a traumatic event. Okay, so flashbacks, anxiety, negative thoughts, hypervigilance. And what do you do for it? Psychotherapy. Okay, so this is clearly coming from the perspective as a psychological issue. And some of the common things that characterize PTSD, the fight or flight response, or really the 5 F's: fight, flight, freeze. Sometimes just people get stuck. Or fawn, they try to interact with whatever the trauma is in a way to try to calm it down by just giving in, or flop. Sometimes people faint, or they just completely lose control over bodily functions and appear disengaged. So those are the 5 F's that can characterize PTSD. Interestingly and surprisingly almost, there is an incredible link with inflammation. So in post-traumatic stress disorder studied among U.S. military personnel, the risk of selected autoimmune diseases is 58% higher for people with a history of PTSD. There's an incredible link with inflammation. So that's a question that we're going to get into more a little bit later. But if it's psychological, what is this? What is inflammation? What is that part? So Dr. MacLean was a neuroscientist who in the 1960s introduced the triune brain model, explaining that the brain really has three parts. So this is a model that we're going to work with. So from the reading from the bottom to the top, we have the lizard brain. So that's just responsible. It's called the reptilian complex, which is responsible for reflexes, instinctual behavior. Okay, and then we have the, make sure that doesn't fall, the mammalian section of the brain, and then followed by the human brain. Hopefully it's here somewhere, though it depends who you ask. So what, and these three levels go from a kind of lower consciousness, more like a reptile, to the instincts, to the emotions, to intelligence. And they introduced that in the 1960s. So what's fascinating is the triune model that Dr. MacLean introduced to the world in the 1960s, based upon his scientific research, directly corresponds to the Kabbalistic model that the Arizal, the Rabbi Isaac Luria, spoke about in the 1570s, almost 400 years earlier. So here's a little chart of the words that in the triune model. We're going again from bottom to the top: reptilian, mammalian, and cerebral. And the Arizal called the lowest level a state of unborn, being unborn. What in the triune model is the mammalian, the Arizal would refer to as nursing, which really corresponds to the mammalian level, right? And the cerebral neocortex, which is responsible for cognitive processing, that the Arizal would call mochen, the brain, the higher intellect. So it's really one-to-one direct correspondence where we go from instinct, feelings, and then intellect. Now, Dr. Stephen Porges uses this model and introduce something very important, right? Are we our instincts, or are we able to act from a higher state? And what he argues, and this is a really important part for understanding trauma, and is that as humans, we have the ability to down-regulate defenses and to functionally co-regulate physiological and behavioral state. So we're able to, using our higher consciousness, actually to down-regulate our defense mechanisms, and we're able to regulate our stress response system, that would be like the lizard brain, and cooperate, especially socially. Now, likewise, the founder of the Hasidic movement, the Baal Shem Tov, in the 1740s, also taught a three-stage technique that could be used to help the individual transcend from the lower state of consciousness to a higher state of consciousness. So that's on the right side here, going from the bottom to the top. When a person is in a state of fight or flight, right? If there's no, this is post-trauma, so there's no trauma, but he's stuck in that consciousness. So the brain isn't really working. So we can't really use it. We can just surrender and submit and listen without self-judging. Really what Dr. Lola was saying. That helps to calm the system down, and that will allow us to be able to move into a limited consciousness, right, where we're able to have feelings, but sometimes the feelings can become very unpleasant, and what we want to do is we want to separate out. So it's called Havdalah. At that level, we focus on, it's kind of like an IFS, right, internal family systems, where the negativity is not us. The stressor, we are something other than this piece. So there's a part of us that is responding emotionally in a certain way, but that's not us. And that allows us to move to the higher state of consciousness called hamtaka, where we even understand that we're not our thoughts, that we have a divine, godly soul, and we're able to connect with a higher state of consciousness and allow the soul to enclose itself within our thoughts, within our feelings, and then within our actions in a positive way, where we are manifesting goodness in the world and not responding with instinctual fear. Now, on top of the intellectual model for this, the Baal Shem Tov, as a highly trained in Jewish meditation, would also do brain entrainments with his followers and with his students. So if they were in any of these states, when they would see him, he would help to synchronize the brain waves to help them move to higher states of consciousness. In fact, as we commemorate the passing of the second leader of Hasidus, Rabbi Dovber, in the famous story when the Maggid of Mezrich, the Rabbi Dovber, came to the Baal Shem Tov the first time, he asked him a very deep Kabbalistic question, and Rabbi Dovber answered the question correctly, but it was from an intellectual standpoint. And then the Baal Shem Tov answered the question using the same words, but with the brain entrainment and the synchronization of the brain waves that actually put his students into that state of consciousness. So along with the intellectual understanding, there is a synchronization that can happen in moving from one state to the next. So we have the parasympathetic nerves and the sympathetic nerves. So when we talk about lizard brain, we're really focused more on the sympathetic nervous system. So that's really the set of nerves that are focused on the fight or flight response. And if you look at the picture on the right side, you'll see that the sympathetic nerves don't go through the brain. So the advantage of the sympathetic nervous system is that it's quick. We don't have to go through the brain. It's instinctual, so it's going to be faster. But it's not going to be calm. It's going to be stimulus response. On the parasympathetic nerves go through the brain and give us the ability to have stimulus, choice. And that choice, that's where our humanity, that's where divinity can come out, where we choose how to respond to a situation. We're able to identify, is something dangerous or something not dangerous? And really the 75% of the parasympathetic system is cranial nerve 10, which is the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is really a very important part of the calming system. Now, we have two systems, and we're always switching back and forth between the two systems. The advantage of the parasympathetic system, it gives us the ability to think, and the sympathetic to be able to go and act faster. And we want to switch back and forth and give each system a chance to grow and to heal. Sometimes we want to be thinking and not acting, and sometimes we want to be acting and not thinking. But sometimes the system gets stuck and it doesn't switch back, and we can get, if the switch gets stuck, we can get stuck in the sympathetic nervous system. So that's a physiological definition of PTSD, where something happens and it's like a machine and the system is just stuck in the sympathetic and it's not switching out, and we're stuck in this lower state of consciousness. What do we do? So that would be more of a physiological definition of PTSD. So sometimes it's the brain, not the mind. So all the cognition and the talk therapy is important and it's actually essential, but sometimes it's not enough, right? With the Baal Shem Tov, we talked about having the brain entrainment. Sometimes we need to address the physiology of the brain directly in order to go and change that to get unstuck. So that's what Dr. Peter Levine figured out. He's has a background in medical biophysics as well as being as a psychologist, and he came up with somatic experiencing, where he really understands the importance of getting unstuck and the importance of the physiological component to treating PTSD. So we're going to learn more about the physiological side as we move on our journey. So PTSD and inflammation are connected. So we can already see where this is going. So we already talked about 58% have a higher risk of developing an autoimmune system, an autoimmune disease for people that have PTSD. People with PTSD also show increased inflammatory biomarkers. Now, what if we turned this upside down? What I mean by that is, what if it's not that PTSD puts you at risk of an autoimmune inflammatory illness? What if autoimmune inflammation puts you at risk of PTSD? What if the brain is already inflamed, and then when a trauma happens, that's when you get stuck? So it goes the other way around. Well, in fact, the anti-inflammatory approach to PTSD is beginning to be studied, and anti-inflammatory drugs are even being proposed for PTSD. So previously, people suggested maybe treating with antidepressants, more like SSRIs, but now they're suggesting maybe we need anti-inflammatory drugs to treat PTSD. And I think in some initial trials, I think that they see that the PTSD symptoms are even lessened when they're treated with anti-inflammatory drugs. But what is an autoimmune disease? So an autoimmune disease is caused when the identification system of the body malfunctions and the immune system misidentifies friend as foe and mounts an attack on your own friendly cells because it thinks they're a foe, a foreign threat. Okay, so that's friendly fire. So when the part of the brain that identifies what is friend and what is foe doesn't work, we don't know what to shoot. So it shoots everything. It's friendly fire. We're shooting our own cells. Sometimes if a system is overwhelmed with many attacks at the same time, it can shift into that and go into hyper vigilance and hyperdrive, where it's just shooting everything. And that's an autoimmune disease where we're attacking ourself. Now, if the identification system is broken, that's what needs to be fixed. So suppressing the immune system is not going to fix the part that's broken. In other words, is the solution to an indiscriminate immune system to shut it down? Well, what about the threats? We need an immune system. Well, that's what anti-inflammatory drugs are going to do. They're just going to shut down the whole system because the system can't figure out what the enemy is and what the friend is. So the identification center is broken, so the tanks are told not to shoot to avoid friendly fire. So that's like a half solution, but it's not solving the problem. So we propose viewing PTSD as an autoimmune mentality and disorder of the vagus nerve. And there's a vicious cycle here. So what that means is that the initial trauma is learned, and learned negative thinking misidentifies triggers as danger, right? So if a person is stuck in this fight and flight response, but is not sure if he has PTSD, he's misidentifying the situation as danger when there isn't actual danger. And that leads to negative thinking and attack on the self, because he doesn't know what is friend and what is foe. So he ends up as with an autoimmune consciousness where he's having negative self thoughts is attacking the self. That type of consciousness reinforces and activates the vagus nerve inflammation. That's what we're suggesting. Now, when the vagus nerve is inflamed, that's going to keep us stuck in the sympathetic nervous system, and there's going to be this vicious cycle where the inflammation of the vagus nerve keeps us stuck. Being stuck, we're going to continue to think negatively, and the negative thinking is going to continue the inflammation. So how do we stop this cycle and restore the ability of the system to correctly identify friend from foe, to identify safety from danger, if we don't have the higher level consciousness to do so, because we're stuck in this cycle? We have to kind of get out. We have to break the cycle without using cognition in order to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about our pilot with soldiers and using the Healables wearable for MSK, musculoskeletal issues, which is what a lot of the soldiers came in with, and then for PTSD as well. So how our failed musculoskeletal pilot led to success with PTSD. Sometimes it's embarrassing to talk about failure, but we learned a lot from this. Houston, we have a problem. On October 7th, war breaks out in Israel, and we have these sports pilots lined up. So everything goes on hold. The whole country goes on a war footing. Previously, we had an 88% success rate with MSK, musculoskeletal issues, in athletes and people that we were working with, all sorts of issues, knee problems, shoulder, wrist. We were able to bring pain down. We were able to increase range of motion with our Healables wearable and our smart microcurrent device. So after October 7th, we pivoted to helping IDF soldiers with the same musculoskeletal issues that the athletes would have, and we had 0 success rate initially. That's really, going from 88% success to 0. What happens? So our practitioner, Gabriel Halevi, basically said there are 2 types of soldiers: those with diagnosed PTSD and those with undiagnosed PTSD. He said every soldier has PTSD. He said this is what you have to do. He was suggesting that the vagus nerve was inflamed, in his words, jammed, and the system was stuck in the sympathetic mode and preventing healing and positive MSK outcomes. So then we adjusted our device. So this is our wearable device. And we adjusted the protocol. So we adjusted the software. Let's how do I do this? Oops. Oh, let's go back here. Sorry. Okay. So we adjusted the protocol to begin every single MSK session with the mini PTSD protocol to hit the factory reset aspects of our protocol and to calm the vagus nerve. And it wasn't the full PTSD protocol, but we used a mini PTSD protocol to calm the vagus nerve, and only after that to move on to the MSK protocol. And the theory was that if we start with that PTSD just to reset the system, then the MSK would work. And that's exactly what happened. We're back at 90% success. After adjusting the protocol to start with factory reset of the vagus nerve, 38 of 42 IDF soldiers had positive MSK outcomes. Significant pain reduction. We observed reduction of PTSD symptoms. Felt calmer, their breathing, their respiration was different. We weren't yet, just due to time, constraints. We weren't measuring the improvements in range of motion or strength with it, but we saw that they left calmer and the pain was down. Okay, so what's going on? What are we doing? So in quantum mechanics, there's something called the wave-particle duality. And what that means is that all matter can be viewed as particles and it can be viewed as waves. So we know that we've witnessed the transformation of photography from chemical film to digital film. We are witnessing the transformation in transportation from chemical fuel, gasoline, petrol, to electrical fuel. And what we are about to witness is the transformation in healthcare from biochemical medicine to bioelectric medicine, where we, instead of treating with chemicals, instead of treating with matter, we're going to treat with waves. And the best way to do that is with electricity. So what we've developed in our cute little device here, think of it as an air conditioner for the nervous system, right? If it's too hot, we put out the air conditioner. If the nervous system needs regulation, this device is able to send the right waves, the right electricity to regulate the nervous system. And then all of that talk therapy is going to be so much more effective, so much more quickly. So we see microcurrent has been tried for PTSD, and it helps to reduce the PTSD risk. But in this study, it didn't reduce the suicide risk because you need to have the therapy. The waves don't replace talk therapy, but they can calm the system in PTSD. And there's neurostimulation of the vagus nerve, and that's been shown to reduce inflammation. What we theorize is not reducing inflammation because, and you see that in the inflammatory markers, because like a pill would do, just to stop the inflammation, it's resetting the system. So we theorize that it's because the system is functioning properly, the inflammation is functioning properly. And we see that again with microcurrent and cytokines. So IL-6, and I'm not sure if this study is IL-6, but other studies show IL-6 and the different inflammatory markers, TNF-alpha. We see that microcurrent modulates inflammatory response. Other studies we see, this is a really cool one. So facial vibrotactical stimulation can activate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's really cool. What this is actually doing is healing in F sharp when A4 is tuned to 432 hertz. And what does that sound like? Well, I can show you here. This I have here a 100-year-old generator of a frequency generator, otherwise known as a cello. So you can see this here. This would be F sharp. I have these stickers here because I don't really know how to play very well. Okay, so that is 89 hertz, F sharp, and that wave has been shown to induce parasympathetic response. That's really cool. Well, that's how you do it with sound. We can do that with electricity. So there are millions of combinations frequencies. How do you know what's right for the person? Well, with electrical medicine, you can download your prescription directly into your body, and you get personalized precision medicine. Okay, we get these slides back again. 1 second. Okay, here it is. Okay, so in order to do that, we developed the Healables system, which is not just a device. There's also an app, a smartphone app, and a backend, and a whole interaction with the cloud where we're able to go and deliver the right electrotherapy protocols to the individual and bring the data back so it can be analyzed and it can be modulated in real time, either through a practitioner and eventually through AI, to give people exactly the settings that they're going to need in order for whatever condition that they have. And that's, we'll have personalized precision medicine where we can download your prescription directly into your body. So right now, at the startup stage that we're at, we're excited that we are working with a new biomedical engineer. His name is Spencer Jones, and he's actually playing in the professional basketball. He graduated from Stanford as a biomedical engineer and has been in the NBA, and we're excited to work with him with our technology for sports. We're at technology readiness level 7. We have a CE mark, and we're really ready to get this technology out and piloted. So let's go through very quickly a little bit what our system is. The Healables remote wearable system, it's personalized with AI. It's a therapeutic, it's a diagnostic, it's for sports performance and recovery. That's not a medical device. And we also will have a version that is a medical device. So it's all of the above, of 2 different products based upon a single technology. Inside of the solution are really 3 parts: a wearable electroceutical therapeutic and diagnostic device. Okay, that's, you can see over here. And smart textiles, which I'm wearing now here. This is the textile for the brain and for the eyes. We also have textiles for the knee and different textiles as well. And then software, including a mobile app and backends. That worked last time. 1 second here. Okay. So our device, what we call the ElectroGear electron stream device, it makes self-treatment and self-measurement wearable. We have a CE mark. On the textiles, the device docks with the textiles. Inside of the textiles are embedded dry electrodes. There's a lot of material science technology to make that happen without any gel or goo or anything. It's going to be uncomfortable and still deliver the signals correctly. And they also act as physiological sensors to go and give real-time feedback back to the system. So we have a closed loop system, and we have textiles for all different parts of the body. In the software, we have a patient mobile app that's very simplified, basically like an MP3 player, and a practitioner mobile app which has more power to operate the device, and then a backend that practitioners can remotely monitor, and not just monitor, but remotely modulate the system. So what are next steps? So here, let's try to get this up again. Oh, okay, so next steps are funding for PTSD. We want to do a pilot with this technology for veterans and soldiers, in addition with remote teletherapy. And we feel like this is really the way to move forward with PTSD and more. So what does this all mean? Bioelectric health, it's the future. I think that the way that penicillin revolutionized medicine at the turn of the century and set the whole world for 100 years looking at drugs, I think that bioelectric health is going to be the glue that puts together cognition, brain medicine, and consciousness and the soul, and brings this all together to be able to really get people healthier and significantly improve outcomes and quality of life, the meaning of life, and reduce expenses. And because there's a lot of people that have PTSD. I mean, imagine, they say overall about 6% of the US population will have PTSD at some point in their lives. That's like 20 million people. I mean, imagine if everyone in New York would have PTSD. Actually, it's probably not that hard to imagine. I've been to the East Coast, I've been to New York. Anyway, I was born in New York, so I can make jokes about New Yorkers. So the direct cost for autoimmune disease, because it's much bigger than PTSD. If we have a solution for inflammation, inflammatory illness, it's been estimated $100 billion per year, but it's really much more than that when you add indirect costs and loss of work. So the next steps in wearable bioelectric brain health are to get this technology funded. I hope with RFK coming in and revolutionizing the regulatory branch in healthcare, I think that we're going to be looking a lot at other ways of treating besides just with chemicals. And I think that this is the future for investment and for health. So from a business perspective, we're looking for investment and partners. And from a science perspective, we're looking for collaborations and places, people to work with to test this technology for different types of issues. So just really to conclude, everyone has, as I said in the beginning, a unique God-given superpower. When we learn to connect with our divine souls, we can make the impossible happen. So we don't want to be stuck our entire lives with lizard brain. We want to move up so we can live our purpose. We can live our divine life, the reason that we were created. We all have our own unique mission in the world that we can accomplish, and we can do that when we connect with our souls and are able to actualize and manifest our essence in the world. So thank you very much for letting me share this with you today, and happy to entertain any questions.
Give me a second. Did I turn it too early? Give me a second, because I have to give a few minutes for people to record, to write.
Okay.
Just a few seconds to help, with the context. Anyhow, it's all in recording, and the nature of our audience is we're dealing with really busy people, and it's very hard to make them. It's Thursday, they're at work, but everything is in the recording, and they will, believe me, we'll share in the network, and it will be in recording available up there, and it will be in our network 100%. Well, first of all, I have a lot of questions, and Dr. Sue is here too. Let me add you to the stage as well. Anyhow, amazing. The most the thing that I really liked is the idea that prey is actually runs faster than the cheater. And you mentioned very important thing regarding the football players. I know that American football is a big part, is a huge part of American culture. And I think it's the most that almost every single football player, they have trauma, brain trauma. I mean, almost every single of them. And the reason why they usually get out of the sports is because of the trauma. And I believe that the things you're doing is like, it's absolutely changing, absolutely, breaking through innovations. Also, regarding the connection, hardware and software, you talk a lot about vagus nerve. I'm a little bit confused in terms of like how do you customizing the solution. So are you getting information from the patient, like personalized data? Are you like, when you're working with the patients, are you working like individually, person by person, or this approach is more scalable?
So that's a great question. First of all, you mentioned football, and I'm based in Jerusalem, but I think you're based in California. I think that in another 2 hours, the Rams are playing the 49ers. So I'm sure that there's a lot of traffic in California right now. So definitely trauma is something that people can relate to as football players and people in traffic on their way to the football games. So it's an important thing to realize. So in terms of how we get the data back from the patient. So right now we are having our individual practitioners work with people, but we're developing a system which is scalable with both third-party sensors, all sorts of sensors. So we have accelerometers, magnetometers that can do range of motion, as well as our sensors that can do bioimpedance. And our intention is that the system is going to get smarter over time. So now most of the world in this field is focusing on sensors and sensors and sensors, and almost nobody is focusing on remote precision treatments. So what we said is we're going to focus on the treatment side and we have our own sensors and partner with other third-party sensors. And then when we can put all the data on the back ends, we'll figure out how to calibrate all that. And we'll have a system which is scalable. And the more people that use it, just the smarter the whole thing's going to get.
So you mentioned like several applications, knee issue, PTSD. So you mentioned very interesting approach that PTSD is all also connected to the autoimmune system and the way how our body in general responded. And you mentioned the talking therapy also. So from your perspective, the question is, from your perspective, so when a person get treatment against whatever brain trauma or whatever trauma, from your perspective, is it vital to get talking therapy?
I think that in an ideal situation, you need to have both together, because that's why I use the engineering metaphor in the beginning, where we have to. Is it a softer problem or is it a harder problem? Very often it's both, and they're interlinked. And if there's a cognitive problem thoughts that are causing the system to work in a certain way, if you fix the physiology, the mental consciousness, the software, if it's used in a certain way, it's going to burn out the hardware. So you can fix the physiology, but if you don't fix the cognition, you're going to wind up with the same problem, and vice versa. If you try to do talk therapy alone without addressing the physiology, and the physiology is stuck, it's going to be hard to have those breakthroughs. And that's why in somatic experiencing, Peter Levine really tries to do both, although it's hard to affect the physiology of the system with talk therapy, although it's possible. And that's why ideally I think you need to have both to some extent. How it's done and how formally it's done, and is a different question, but I think that both aspects are important.
Good. Also, the question is about the textile. In terms of, does it have any in terms of limitation? How can I use it? How durable is it? And in terms of how can you, is it waterproof? In terms of, tell a little bit about the textile. How it's actually working in the real life environment. It's like how convenient it is.
Yeah, so the textile was designed from both a manufacturing perspective and a usability perspective to be low tech. Okay, so we chose to use snaps. Okay, we have just regular snaps. Now they make a mechanical and an electrical connection with the device, but textile companies know how to put snaps on. As a textile, women are able to watch this every day. Men can watch it once a year. That's a joke. So it can go in the washing machine with no problem. Just regular textile, and embedded inside we have dry electrodes that are able to work with no gel and no liquid, nothing, to make that connection. That part of we try to offload the complexity and the challenges of the system from the user to the software and to the engineering to be able to deliver the signals in a way that is, and it's actually easy. I mean, this is a sports compression sleeve, and people can just wear it. We have a baseball player that uses a shoulder sleeve after he pitches, and normally a baseball pitcher can pitch every 4 days, and it takes about 4 days to recover. He's able to recover full strength, and he's measured this with the sensor that measures the angular velocity, full strength in 24 hours instead of 4 days, using the shoulder stimulation.
Wow, that's impressive. And basically, we can order like hundreds. So you can order any amount of it, right? Is there any like?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is completely totally scalable in terms of the textiles and the devices, and scaling has its own challenges from a business perspective. It's called DFM, design for manufacturing, when you want to optimize the scaling process to bring the cost down. But that's all. Those aren't technological challenges. Those are normal scaling challenges that we've overcome the technological challenges that we've had to overcome to make this product work.
Very impressive. Dr. Sweet, do you have questions? We didn't hear you a while.
Sorry. Yes, I'm unmuting. Sure. So I don't know if you heard my previous little blurb. So my questions are going to be about the type of studies and so on. It sounds like there's some interesting studies with IDF soldiers and so on. Are these randomized controlled trials, or are they more kind of following, people that want to come in and, then you give them treatment and so on? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So so I'll speak to that really with three perspectives. We have letters of intent with hospitals to do RCTs, double-blind randomized controlled trials, properly studied, to get regulation and reimbursement and all that. They want hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we haven't to get the numbers to make everything statistically accurate from you need a lot of people, and to get reimbursement you need a number. Even though our system works so well that you probably don't need as many people as they think the answer is we've only done one double-blinded study, and it was by accident. And this is a very important thing. We've been basically treating people in our office and with different practitioners. And we had about 3 months where the treatment stopped working. People were coming in. Normally people come in and they come out feeling a lot better. The treatment works very fast. And something wasn't going. We thought maybe it was the winter, maybe the temperature was different, maybe what was everything was the same. Everything everything was working properly, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. But the patients were complaining, the practitioners were complaining. After 3 months, we found a bug in the software that showed that we were not delivering any therapy for 3 months. But the patients thought they were being treated. The practitioners thought that we were treated. The engineers, everybody thought the system was working. When we fixed the software, everything started working again. So that was an accidental double-blinded trial that we did. It's embarrassing, but that's true. The other studies are just anecdotal, so there's no control, and we recognize the need for that, and that's where the funding comes in, because when we can get the funding to do the trials, we've written the trials. We have hospitals that want to do the trials with us, and they're ready to go. We just need the funding to make it happen.
Question. So in your studies, when you were basically implementing your textile on the patients, were you able? Was you able completely avoid pills, right?
I'm sorry, we're able to avoid
Pills.
Pills, pills. I mean, like anti-inflammatory.
avoid pill, right? So the developing a medical device is challenging, and when people have I can only talk about anecdotal studies. Okay, so
Mhm.
that's what we've been doing. That's what happens at this stage with the startup. You kind of do what you can do. There was a soldier in the border police. Um, he got injured. He had a knee problem, and then he was put on opioids, and he was ended up had a desk job. He started using our system, and first he used the system concurrently with his pills. He didn't stop his pills, but after using our system for a number of months, he was able to stop the opioids and actually was able to get back into the field. So I think that medication has a place. Definitely anti-inflammatories. Certainly from an acute perspective, there's definitely a place for them. The problem is when you get into long-term use of NSAIDs and steroids, that the trade-off becomes it's not really a long-term solution and that's where I think that the microcurrent therapy can offer a solution for because where I think I first of all, just to manage the inflammation without the side effects, but more than that, I think that what we're doing is we're actually healing the system rather than just reducing the inflammation. And again, just to be said, I guess, Dr. Asher, a lot of what I'm saying, some of it's conjecture, a lot of it needs, but as a startup, that you do what you can do, and with funding,
Absolutely. Yeah,
let's
I mean it's a problem every startup has to deal with, no matter what field you're in. The resources are very important,
Always
and
and
so
always
much.
limited.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Uh,
it's in academia too, right? If you have a new idea and you're a young researcher, you don't have the same resources as the established, and so on. So this is always a problem, and I wish better for a system that will promote more innovation and tests of more innovation, because I think sometimes just doing experiments to do experiments is good, right? You kind of come up with a new one, and then you try a new one, and so on and so forth.
I'm wondering what is the price? You didn't mention how much that actually costs, because I have like several people I know who actually just recently got a surgery on the knee. Like literally, I know several people. I'm wondering how much costs the new device.
Yeah.
Did
So
you-
so so right now our model is really to work through professionals, let's say physical therapists, and the model that we have is to sell a package to the physical therapist. Now, so
Mhm.
if a physical therapist could, let's say, be buying, let's say, a laser system for like $15,000, $20,000, which they could treat one person at a time in their office. And what we're saying is, instead of buying a system like that, buy you know a whole bunch of our devices, and then what you can do is the people can come into your office, you can see them once, um, lease a device to them for a month, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever time that they need. The patient would lease the device. This is the expensive part, the electronics. They would buy their own textile because people don't usually want to go and share textiles, and the textiles are much cheaper. So the textile would be about $200, and as a purchase, and then they could lease the device, and then they could use it for as long as they need for. And then the practitioner is making money by being able to treat remotely. He can now treat many more patients at the same time, and we hope with the that America's going to move in this direction, and have better reimbursement mechanisms for remote therapeutics. So then everybody benefits. The overall, the country benefits because people are going to be feeling better with less expense. Patients are going to have less money, and practitioners are going to make more money. That's our
Yeah.
hope.
I have a question. That business model sounds, because you're trying to sell it through practitioners, how are you going to be able to do that without it being a medically approved advice? Because then that kind of falls in, a gray area where the practitioner is recommending a device. And if it's not, medically approved device, then,
Right.
that
That's an excellent question. And from a business perspective, we have two products. And the first product is not a medical device. The first product is a sports recovery and performance product. So improving your pitching recovery time from 4 days to 1 day, that's not a medical condition. That's a wellness condition.
Right.
And our first, just because of speed to market and when you want to go and get to market faster. So our first product is a sports product. It's not a medical device, just to get the technology out there to go and start getting cash into the company. In parallel to that, we'll be having a parallel product that has to go through the clinical trials, and we want to do a de novo so we can get the proper reimbursement, the proper regulation. I hope that RFK is going to help with that, with electrotherapy, and bring that up to the century that we're in, and we'll launch a medical, so we can use it, for post-op and for actual, reduce inflammation, relieve pain, accelerate healing, and and all the different medical claims that we'll be able to make that we'll demonstrate with clinical trials.
Yeah. But it just seems to me that you wouldn't be able to sell so much in that second pathway, at least initially. But I'm actually curious if you're able to or not, because unless it's a certified device, I see problems with that. I depends on the type of professional, I guess. I'm not sure.
So we have a lot of interest from physical therapists, and when you say second way, I guess you mean the first way of the sports product. So there are different levels. So what I'm calling the wellness device, we could register it as a class 2 510K exempt medical device without making medical claims, and that would be enough to kind of reduce the liability. Where it's a weird classification where you can, like a bathroom scale is registered with the FDA as a medical device, even though it's listed as does not provide hospital quality results and cannot be used. It doesn't claim to go and give your weight accurately enough, So, but it's still registered with the FDA, and that would, in other words, it's not just a question of regulation, it's a question of also reimbursement. Are you looking for reimbursement beyond just registration? So from the sports wellness product, people pay for hockey gear, cycling gear, golf gear. They'll pay for, pickleball, right? Everybody's getting hurt with pickleball. So they would pay for something that's going to help them recover, that's not a medical device, because they're not looking for reimbursements and we're not making medical claims. But so I think that there's a market there, even just with basic registration, and then the advanced registration with the de novo would be with the medical route.
Okay.
But there's people out there in business that are smarter than I am, and with investment, I'm sure we'll be connected with the right people to make these questions, answer these questions the right way.
Yes. Anyway, it can be even goes as a wellness tool. So yes, I mean, it very depends on the pathway you are choosing. Anyhow, I'm very impressed, and I know you will have a great success. It's just a matter of time. We just keep pushing things. I know that sometimes it's hard, especially when you not that many people know you. It's a matter of getting through the ice, getting through the wall. We will make it happen. Anyhow,
this is the future. This is
Yes.
the bioelectric health powered by AI, remote healing. This is the future, and everybody's going to be there. And
what important thing I would like to mention. You mentioned a very important thing in terms of the connection of inflammation with connection of the physical and mental. And I believe 100% that people who are experiencing any sort of mental wellness, any sort of anxiety, any sort of depression, they do have inflammation, one way or another. It's sometimes it's very hard to diagnose. Sometimes you can, if you go to the doctor, general therapists, and it will take all the blood tests. They will not find it, simply because that's not on a level that creates a major issue, but it does sit there. And I agree with you 100%. Moreover, I believe that if there is certain issue with the mental condition, you definitely have to implement certain physical, behavioral, significant changes. You have to work with your body, because it's up there, it sits there, and you can move forward. And to break the ice, to break the circle, the vicious circle of the condition, you definitely have to have a combination of the tools that help you to work with your hardware and software, as you mentioned. I honestly, I absolutely love the approach, and the way the entire message of reaching the highest value, that's part of the goals that Human Brain Expert has, because that's 100%. Because when we are attuned to highest self, when we attune to our human values, and when we behave accordingly, we actually open ourselves to the better, not just better environments, better future, better businesses, better connections. It's just absolutely different level of communications in life. And I absolutely agree with you on that point. And I wish you all possible success. Please stay in touch with us. We're going to have events, things coming. I will let you know. I will, of course, keep you updated. Anyhow, it was a pleasure to connect. Again, many thanks for joining us. And I hope to see you soon in the future.
Thank you so much, and much success on this incredible project that you have, because this is really the future, and I'm really honored to be a part of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the thing is, our next speaker, he supposed to join us from Dubai, but the thing is that it looks like we're going to record interview with him separately later, because the differences in time creates all the issues with joining us, because we have people from all around the world, and sometimes it's very hard to connect, and plus people are busy, and I know that most of you are going to watch this on recording, so hi. To some of you who are going to watch us later in the recording. Anyhow, I believe that we have to do such thing more often, and I believe that that's important things to do, and I believe we're bringing the right people, and I truly believe in the high goals of Human Brain Expert. And well, the thing is, we're just going to finish up for today, and we will just stay tuned. We will see you in the future in 2025, because there are multiple events coming. Do you want to add something?
No. It's great to have the opportunity and to look at things from many perspectives, and look forward to more interesting talks.
Okay, great. Bye to all. We'll see you soon.